The Losers Club were ready to move on with their lives, to forget about the horrors they'd faced in the sewers below Derry, Maine. But Pennywise wasn't done with them yet. The evil clown had been waiting for his chance to strike back, and when he finally resurfaced, it was in a way that chilled them all to the bone. It had been 27 years since the losers had banished Pennywise, 27 years since they'd said goodbye to their dead friends, buried or not. All of them had left Derry, trying to make new lives elsewhere, and some had even managed to find happiness. Ben Hanscom was now a successful architect. Beverly Marsh was happily married with 2 kids. Eddie Kasbrock had overcome his crippling anxiety. Richie Tozier was killing it in the entertainment industry, and Mike Hanlon was a history teacher in Los Olas. Only Bill Denbrough still lived in Derry. He couldn't bring himself to leave the place where he'd grown up, where Georgie had died. Even after all these years, guilt gnawed at him. He could have saved his little brother. He should have defeated Pennywise. Only when Bill received a phone call from Beverly did he realize he wasn't alone in his feelings. They were all haunted by the memories of Derry, by the creatures that lurked in its sewers. When Richie picked up on Mike's line, he heard the pain in his voice. There was no mistaking that familiar lilt, that slight lisp that was unique to Mike. And then there was Ben, whose usually boisterous voice was tight with tension. "He's back," Mike whispered, the words catching in his throat. "Pennywise is back." Their worst fears had become reality. Pennywise was alive and well, feeding on the children of Derry once again. But this time he was playing a game with the Losers Club. They were his pawns, and the stakes were higher than ever. It would take them back to the beginning, back to the origins of their terror. A thick envelope arrived at each of the losers' homes, tied shut with a crimson ribbon. Inside, they found an old ticket, one that sent shivers down their spines. It was a ticket to the Derry Fun Fair, a fairground that had burnt down 30 years ago, a fire that had claimed several young lives. One name was scrunched onto the ticket in what looked like blood. The Losers Club stared at the message in horror. Pennywise wanted them to return to the site of his greatest triumph, to the place where he'd claimed his first victims. In the ensuing chaos, the Losers Club made their way back to Derry, drawn together by a morbid sense of duty. Once reunited, they knew what they had to do. They had to confront Pennywise, put an end to his reign of terror, once and for all. They were all older now, but the bond forged in the fires of hell was unbreakable. As they stood on the charred remains of the fun fair, they realized that Pennywise was toying with them, enjoying their fear. He was making them relive their darkest moments. Then the ground beneath them rumbled, and from the depths of the earth, Pennywise emerged, his eyes gleaming with malicious glee. He was more terrifying than they remembered, his gestures cap askew, his white face smeared with soot. In his hand, he held a small balloon, the kind that Georgie would have loved. A strangled cry escaped Bill's lips, that balloon. It was the exact replica of the one that had floated away with Georgie, the one that had led their innocent friend into the clutches of Pennywise. But Pennywise wasn't done yet. His twisted game was just beginning. Each loser was confronted with their deepest fears. Eddie was trapped in a sewer, the same sewer where he'd fought the Losers Club against the Deadlights. Richie was dragged through a funhouse mirror maze, his own distorted laughter echoing around him. Beverly found herself in her childhood home, facing off against a manifestation of her abusive father. Ben was confronted by images of the town's former residents, the ones who'd burned to death at the fairground. And Mike was taken to the very spot where he'd unearthed the Losers Club's silver anniversary, the day they'd triumphed over Pennywise, only to be cursed with a vision of the future. The curse had come true. Pennywise was back, and he was taking each loser to their own personal hell. As they struggled to free themselves from their nightmarish scenarios, the losers realized that Pennywise had taken something else away from them. Their powers, the abilities that had helped them defeat Pennywise before, were gone. This time, there would be no telekinesis, no super strength, no light-bending tricks. Pennywise had stripped them of everything, leaving them vulnerable and terrified. Bill found himself face to face with Pennywise in the ruins of the old fairground. The clown was grotesquely beautiful, his red hair flowing around him like blood. His eyes were pools of infinite darkness, and his smile, oh God, his smile was a slash of razor blades. Pennywise taunted Bill, reveling in his fear. "You can't win, Bill Denbrow," he hissed, his voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You and your friends are mine. Derry is mine." But in the midst of the terror, Bill spotted a child standing near the carousel. It was a girl with long, flowing hair, a girl who looked eerily like Georgie. Hope surged through Bill. If he could get to the child, he might be able to stop Pennywise. Maybe she was the key to defeating the creature. As Bill raced toward the girl, he heard a voice that made his blood run cold. "Don't you know? Don't you understand? It's just a dream," Pennywise screeched. "A dream that will never end." Bill stumbled, his heart sinking. Was this another trick of the clown's, a figment of his imagination? Suddenly, the girl turned around. Her eyes, wide and innocent, met Bill's. And in that moment, he knew. She wasn't a figment of Pennywise's imagination. She was real, just as the creature tormenting them all was real. With renewed determination, Bill charged forward, reaching out to the girl. "Run," he shouted, hoping she understood. "Run away from here." The girl hesitated, then turned and fled. Bill didn't know where she was going, but he trusted that she would be safe. Now he had to deal with Pennywise. The clown was blocking his path, his eyes burning with hatred. "You can't save her, Bill," Pennywise snarled. "Just like you couldn't save Georgie." With a surge of adrenaline, Bill lunged, connecting his fist with Pennywise's jaw. The clown stumbled back, momentarily stunned. Bill pressed his attack, but it was like trying to hit a shadow. Pennywise was too quick, too agile. He dodged and weaved, his laughter echoing around them. In a flash of movement, Pennywise grabbed Bill's arm, his grip like iron. "You haven't changed at all, have you, Bill?" he sneered. "Still the brave leader, always putting yourself in danger for the others." "Shut up," Bill growled, struggling to free himself. "Let me go." "Oh, I will let you go," Pennywise whispered, his voice dripping with menace. "But not before I show you something." He released Bill and stepped back, gesturing with a flourish. Behind Bill, the Losers Club stood frozen, their eyes wide with horror. They were still trapped in their personal hells, unable to help each other. Pennywise had made sure of that. "This is your fault, Bill," he hissed, his eyes blazing. "It's always been your fault." And then, as if in answer to Pennywise's words, the ground beneath them gave way. The Losers Club fell, tumbling down into the darkness. They landed in a heap, coughing and spluttering. But it was when they looked up that their hearts stopped. Above them, Pennywise stood silhouetted against the faint light. He was grinning, a cruel, triumphant grin. "Welcome to hell, losers," he whispered. "We're all going to have so much fun. The nightmare wasn't over. It had just begun." As the Losers Club huddled together in the darkness, fear gripping them, they knew they had to escape. Pennywise had set his final trap, and it was one that threatened to swallow them whole.